Hello everyone. I thought it'd be easier if I talked to you and went through the corrections to the test that you did recently. Most people did very well, and there's a few things I think maybe you just need a bit of help understanding some of the questions. But if you maybe pause the video, get out your answers or get them up on screen, then you can add in your corrections. Now, what I'm going to do is get you to actually take a photograph of your corrections. So you need to get a different colour of pen and correct anything that you got wrong, and then I'm going to ask you to upload a photo or scan of it at the end. So if you need to pause the video, do that now, get your stuff, get a red pen or a green pen or some other colour and come back. Okay, so the first question was asking about bacteria, and it was asking about life processes. Well, hopefully you remember when we started this topic, we said that bacteria were living organisms, and that just like any other living organism, they have 7 life processes or 7 characteristics. So you should remember that the G is for growth. They all grow. So on this sheet here, you should tick that box. R could be respire or reproduce. So that would mean you would tick grow, respire, reproduce. Well, they move, they're sensitive. The E stands for excrete. And N for nutrition, they need to feed. So excrete means get rid of waste products. So those are the 4 ticks that you should have put there. Grow, respire, get rid of waste, and reproduce. Some bacteria can cause diseases, but not all of them. And some bacteria live in water, but not all of them. So those were common mistakes. Some people ticked those, but they were wrong because the question said 4 life processes that all bacteria must be able to do. Okay, question 2, name a disease caused by bacteria. So a lot of people talked about salmonella, but there was a whole list of things you could have had there, but salmonella was the most popular one. What type of microbe causes the common cold? Well, the cold is caused by a virus, and that was one of the examples that we learned, and that's a way back near the beginning of this topic, I think. Let me see there. Yeah, that's somewhere near the beginning. And then athlete's foot. Yes, we saw photographs of that and we learned that it's caused by a fungus. 3 ways in which microbes can be spread to cause diseases. So we had a lot of people obviously thinking about the coronavirus and talking about coughing and sneezing. Well, coughing and sneezing, the virus has been spread in droplets in the air. So you weren't going to get 2 marks for saying coughing and sneezing because that's essentially using the same idea of droplets being spread. So if you'd given some kind of description for that, or maybe in infected water or food, they can be spread by animals or through contact or touch. So we talked about athlete's foot, and you know that if you walk over a wet changing room floor after someone who has athlete's foot, there's a good chance that you'll pick up the fungus that way. So through contact. Question 4 was talking about these cells here, the ciliated epithelial cells that line your trachea, and it was asking you how these cells help to protect the body against microbes. So if you breathe in, could be the coronavirus, it could be the bacteria that give you a sore throat, streptococci, any of those things. If the bacteria, the virus gets in through your nose and into your trachea, these cells here that produce mucus, well, the mucus will trap the bacteria or the microbes. So that's the first thing you needed to say, that microbes are trapped in the sticky mucus. And then the cilia, these hair-like structures, the cilia wave or beat them. They sort of waft them up. So they waft the mucus, which contains the bacteria or the virus, and they move it up to the back of your throat. That's the second point. Third point is that either you cough it up or you blow it out through your nose or you swallow it, and that goes into your digestive system and eventually out of your body. So 3 points there. First bit is the mucus is sticky and it traps the microbe. Second point, the cilia waft it up to the back of your throat, or they push it up to the back of your throat, or they brush it up to the back of your throat. And then thirdly, it's either coughed up or sneezed up or blown out of your nose, out of your respiratory system. So, what about bacteria that get into your stomach? Microbes that get into your stomach, well, they will be killed by the very strong acid. Now, some people actually knew the name of it and said it was hydrochloric acid, but so long as you wrote acid, you got a mark there. What about your eyes? Well, when we were talking about the defense system of your body, we learned that there are chemicals in your eyes, in the tears in your eyes, that will kill microbes. So the chemicals in your tears kill microbes. And every time you blink, you're wiping the tear fluid across your eye, and that's really almost a bit like disinfecting your eye to some extent. Question 5 was looking for examples of diseases caused by each of the following ways. So infectious diseases, those are diseases that are spread usually from person to person. So you could have mumps, measles, cold, flu, COVID-19 if you want, AIDS and so on, lots of diseases there. Inheritance. What diseases can people be born with? Well, cystic fibrosis, and we learnt that through the genetics topic, but cystic fibrosis is the example you would have written down on your notes on page 3. Another example we had down was colour blindness. And if you want to look back to page 3 to see how to spell things, that wouldn't be a bad idea. In terms of diseases caused by poor diet, you could have scurvy, and that's lack of vitamin C, anemia, lack of iron, get very tired. If you eat food with high salt, you could get high blood pressure. You could also suffer from obesity if you eat too much sugary food. What about lifestyle? Well, again, stress can put your blood pressure up, so you could have high blood pressure. It can also cause heart disease. So those would be 2 examples that you should have in your notes. So all you had to do is write down one of those. Drugs. Well, by drugs, it could be smoking, the nicotine in smoke, other recreational drugs. You've got alcohol as well. So diseases caused by those could be lung cancer or throat cancer or liver disease. Okay. Now, excuse me, that's just a bit of hay fever. If we'd been in school, we would have actually grown some bacteria, and we would have used this Petri dish, and you would have gone around taking samples of different places around school. But obviously we're not in school and we can't do that, so we left out question 6 and 7. Some of you left out 8, 9 and 10. I assume you just didn't read closely enough. So what about 8? When someone receives a vaccination, what's actually injected into him or her? Well, in your notes it tells you a vaccination has a weakened or a dead form of the pathogen. So if it's a bacterial infection, you probably get dead bacteria injected into you. Or it could be, in some cases, there's some viral vaccinations where the virus has been treated, it's been heated, so that it can't reproduce inside your body. But it still can cause your body to go through all the immune response and to make you immune, so that if you ever get infected again, you're going to be safe, you're not going to catch the disease. So we were just looking for their dead or weakened microbes or pathogens. I only gave 1 mark for that. There is another type of vaccination which has the toxin, the chemical that the pathogen makes. But when I look back, it wasn't in your notes. So I just gave you 1 mark. And so the total was 1 less than it should have been. That's okay. So nobody lost out there. What's an antibiotic? Well, an antibiotic is a chemical which kills bacteria. So we learnt that definition. It's a chemical that kills bacteria. And leading on from that, question 10, why are antibiotics not any use against the cold or the flu? Well, if you think back to the cold or flu, what causes them? Well, we learnt that the cold and the flu are caused by viruses. So is an antibiotic any use against a virus? Well, no, because an antibiotic, from what you wrote question 9, is a chemical that kills bacteria. The flu and the cold are caused by viruses, so the antibiotic is not going to be any use. Okay. Now we're going to move on and look over the page here. Now, all you had to do here for the first bit, measure the area of the fungal growth on slice 2 and record the result in the table. Now, when you look at this, you can see that there are some parts there, and if I just point out, for example, there's just a fraction of that square that's covered by the fungus. So I don't think it's enough to count that square, and if you look, there's a tiny bit there, whereas this one here is mostly full of fungus, and so is this, and so is this. So probably the rule that you've used before when you're counting things in a grid, if there is half or more, count it. If there's less than half, don't count it. Now, you got a mark if you put, the most accurate answer is 18, but we were willing to give a little bit of leeway on that. So if you put 16, 17, 18, or even 19 as your answer, you got a mark. Now, a lot of people, well, some people didn't write anything, so I'm assuming you were reading in a hurry, you didn't check over. That was an easy mark to pick up. So, bit of advice, next time you're doing tests or questions, make sure you read everything carefully. Okay, because that was an easy mark just for counting. I think one person wrote a range of results, but that's not going to get you any marks. You have to put in one measurement. 2 conditions needed for fungal growth. Most people wrote warm temperature and water or moisture. You could also have put oxygen there as well, but you got a mark for warmth, moisture, or you could have had oxygen as one of those. Then explain why the fungus didn't grow on slice 1. Well, if we look at slice 1, it said dry bread, room temperature. So those 2 at room temperature, this was in the fridge. 2 had a lot of fungal growth. So the only difference between 1 and 2, this was damp, this was dry. They were both kept at the same temperature. So fungus didn't grow in slice 1 because there was no moisture. And moisture is essential for fungi to grow. So you need to put both marks there. 1 mark for saying it was dry or didn't have any water, so the fungus couldn't grow. Now, if we look at question 12, this is very similar to what's going on page 16 in our notes. So if we look at page 16, we're saying that this is a phagocyte and it engulfs and then digests a microbe. So the microbe could be bacteria, anything like that. So this cell here is called the phagocyte, and it's engulfing a microbe, or as I said, it could be bacteria. Microbe is just a general term for any microorganism. So if we look at this diagram here, if it's engulfing, A is engulfing B, so A is a phagocyte, and that's P-H-A-G-O-C-Y-T-E. Okay. B is what's being engulfed, so it's the microbes or bacteria. And then question B says, name the process occurring. So this process is phagocytosis. Now, question 13. When microbes enter our body, some blood cells produce antibodies. The antibodies work by clumping the microbes together, making them unable to move. So in this diagram, they've drawn microbes. So I'll just copy these out. So these are the microbes. And they've drawn antibodies over here. Well, not perfect, but you get the idea. Now it tells you in the question, the antibodies work by clumping the microbes together. How can that shape clump those together? Well, if you move it around there, and the other one there, that's how antibodies would clump the microbes together. So you had to draw that in there. Okay, it would look like that. So that was actually part B. Complete the diagram to show how the antibodies cause the microbes to clump together. Part A, name the structure present on the surface of the microbes that stimulates the white blood cell to produce antibodies. So we learnt that microbes have got antigens. So these are special markers on the surface. They're called antigens. And your body makes antibodies that are just the right shape to fit on to the antigens. Now, we looked at this on page 17. And we did an exercise where we tried to match the antibody onto the antigen there, and the antigen is on the surface of the pathogen. So, going back to our questions here, name the structures present on the surface of the microbes. So these are called antigens. That was the answer to A. Complete the diagram. You draw the antibodies in there. And lastly, suggest why we have different antibodies for each type of disease. Well, we learned that we have to have different antibodies for each type of disease because each different type of disease has a different shape of antibody. So another bacterium might actually have that shape there. Those antibodies wouldn't fit onto there, it would be no use. So they have to have their own special shape of antibodies to fit on there. Another disease might have something completely different. And so you can see it has to have a completely different antibody. So if we add up all the marks that were available, there were 34. So remember, I only gave 1 mark instead of 2 there. So that means the total of all the questions that you attempted is out of 34. And we had some people who did very well. So if you got 30 or above, that is an excellent mark. A lot of people scoring sort of 25 to 30, that's pretty good. If you got less than that, you need to have another look, and I would suggest you go back and look at the pages that I've referred to. And if there are any things that you're not sure about, maybe you think you don't know why you got a mark, drop me a private comment. Or if there's something that you don't understand, if there's an answer that I've explained and it doesn't make sense to you, drop me a private comment and we'll see if we can sort that out and give you some help. Okay, well, all the best now. See you again. Bye.